Let's have a look at this most important process that helped us gain life. Yes, I'm referring to the process of fertilization. How do we define it in simplest words? Fertilization is the process in which male gametes fuse with a female gamete, giving rise to a zygote. So, how will this process begin? When one sperm among all the other is able to penetrate the egg cell, then the egg releases certain chemicals. These chemicals make sure that no other sperm will now penetrate this egg. The first step begins now when the male's nucleus from the sperm fuses with the female nucleus that is already sitting right there in the big fat egg cell. The fusion stimulates a cascade of reaction which will further give rise to several successive cell divisions. The consecutive cell divisions then give rise to an embryo that will further develop into an organism. So, is this process of fertilization same in all the organisms? Think for a moment. In order to answer this question, we have to keep in mind two facts. Firstly, the process of fertilization is simply the fusion of gametes. Secondly, the place where the fusion of gametes can take place may be different in various organisms. So now, can we answer the question correctly? Yes. The simplest answer is that process of fertilization will almost be the same. This is because it involves the fusion of the gametes. However, the location where fertilization occurs may be different in animals. For examples, in human, the baby grows inside the mother's body. However, have you seen the babies of the frog? They are not born from inside the body of female frog, like in our case. This gets us to the concept of types of fertilization. The first example explains that fertilization occurs inside the female's body. Hence, such a type is referred to as an internal fertilization. In this case, the sperms from a male body enter the female reproductive tract and reach the fallopian tube where the egg cell awaits. The fusion of both completes the fertilization process inside her body. All higher animals like mammals exhibit this type of fertilization. Now, can you guess the next type? Yes, it will be the external fertilization. As the name says, the process will involve fusion of gametes outside the female's body. Frogs are examples belonging to this category. In this case, the unfertilized eggs are released in water. Now, the sperms from the male body will be released on these eggs will fertilize them. As a result, fertilization process will be accomplished in the water outside the female's body. Many aquatic animals, including fishes, exhibit this type of fertilization. This is how fertilization takes place in animals. Now, the most important things we need to know is how the embryo develops. Remember that animals reproduce sexually, which simply means utilizing sperm and egg. Yes, believe it or not, even things like worms, corals, and this single cell then goes through a process known as cleavage where it divides repeatedly, thus converting a single large cell into many smaller cells called blastomeres during cleavage. There is no growth, only a subdivision of mass which continues until normally sized cells form into a cluster called a blastula. At this point, the embryo has gone from a simple cell to a few hundred or even a few thousand. In most animals, the cell of the blastula then begin to shift and differentiate into cell groups that will become specialized for different functions within the animals. It is during the cellular differentiation phase called gastrulation where the germ layers become apparent. First, the blastopore folds inward and forms a gastrula. Now, two cell layers are present. In diploblastic animals like the cnidarians, these two are their only unique germ layers, the ectoderm and the endoderm. These layers are separated by primarily non-cellular water-filled tissue layer called the mesogilia, which we'll discuss in more detail later in this series. The ectoderm develops into the epidermis, the outer layer of the body wall. The ectoderm, meanwhile, gives rise to the gastrodermis, the tissue that lines the gut cavity. The mesogilia is not considered to be true cell layer because any cells found within the arise from the endoderm or the ectoderm. The cells within each tissue layer. Now, unlike cnidarians, most animals are triploblastic, meaning they have a third embryological layer sandwiched between the ectoderm and the endoderm, called the mesoderm. This layer gives rise to supportive cells, contractile cells, and blood cells. These triploblastic animals are further organized into subgroups based on the body cavities. A body cavity is fluid-filled space where the internal organs are suspended and separated from the body wall. Some triploblastic animals, like the flatworms, are coelomates, meaning they have a densely packed cells called parenchyma. These cells are not specialized for any particular function. Other animals, like the roundworms, are pseudocoelomates, meaning they have a body cavity that is not entirely lined by the mesoderm. They have no muscular or connective tissues around their digestive tract. Lastly, the majority of triploblastic animals, everything from earthworms to insects and humans, are considered to be coelomates. That means they have a coelom, a body cavity that's surrounded by the mesoderm, capable of a multiple of complex functions. All of these features develop during gastrulation. The cells in each germ layer further differentiate in a process known as organogenesis. Some cells of ectoderm form the nervous system, others from the outer epithelium of the body, and everything that entails from the enamel of the teeth to the lens of the eye. Cells in the mesoderm form the circulatory system, the blood, bone marrow, and the blood vessel, while others form the smooth muscle and the connective tissue of the digestive tract. The endoderm begins to form the respiratory tract, the pharynx, and the lining of the gut. All organs and organ systems can have their cells traced back to this period of differentiation and organization. The journey of life begins with a single cell, but later it is no longer alone. It divides repeatedly to form a mass of many cells together. And in this part, we are going to learn about this beautiful process that help us grow to what we are from a single cell. We will be talking about how the embryo develops. Do we have a scientific name for this process of embryo development? It is called embryogenesis. In simplest word, embryogenesis is a process that follows fertilization. Where exactly does the fertilization takes place in the humans? It takes place in the fallopian tube of the female reproductive system. However, before reaching the uterus, the embryo undergoes a series of divisions that help in its growth and development. Let us focus on one of the fallopian tubes where the egg cell has got fertilized. Now, this fertilized egg cell will divide to form two cells followed by four, and this results in a formation of ball-like structure. This ball contains many cells inside it. Do you know what this ball of cell is referred to as? When the cell number in it is 16, then it is referred to as morula. This further divides to form a structure called blastula. So, will it have double the number of cells in it? Blastula is just a stage where the cells arrange themselves such that way they form a hollow mass. In fact, the cells align themselves to the ends and leave the cavity within which gets filled with fluid. Now, the next stage of the development will be the blastocyst. It is the stage where the embryo will have the cells that have got differentiated and will even differentiate further. Now, what exactly is the process of differentiation? Let me explain. Have you ever thought that if we all start our lives with a single cell, then where do all these different types of cells in our body come from? Yes, I know, it's from the single cell that was present at the beginning. But how is this possible? The answer the answer to this is the differentiation process. As the name suggests, it is a process in which one cell gets differentiated from the other cells in its vicinity. As a result, we get a whole new variety of the cells from these differentiated ones after successive division. So, coming back to the blastocyst stage, it is now a mass containing differentiated cells. As it grows further, the body of the embryo begins to develop. But for its proper growth and development, don't you think the embryo will require nutrition? Of course, yes. And where will it derive the necessary nutrition from? You may say the mother's body. That correct, yes, but how will that be the possible when blastocyst is still moving inside the reproductive tract? It is not connected to the point from where it can derive nutrition. Hence, the blastocyst needs nutrition to be connected to the particular location. This is where the most important stage of the implantation comes into the picture. Can we guess that what could it be from the name itself? It is the step where the blastocyst now attaches itself inside the mother's body at one fixed position. It implants itself there. And where will this position be? Of course, inside the uterus. That is the place where the baby grows, right? So now the embryo attaches itself in the uterus. Few of the main reasons for the attachment is deriving nutrition, giving away waste and exchanging gases. This is served through this barrier that we can see here. This barrier is an organ called the placenta. So can we say the placenta connects the baby from its mother? Absolutely. Now the embryo is all set to grow into the baby. This stage where the organs of the baby's body start developing such that they can identify and is called the stage of fetal stage. And the embryo can now be called fetus. The fetus grows in the uterus after taking the required amount of time, and when the growth is completed, the child is all set to enter this beautiful world. This is how embryogenesis takes place in the most of the animals. But wait a second. We have seen that the hen lays egg and the chicks emerge out from these eggs. It means they do not grow in the body of their own mother. Yes, development of the embryo takes place in two different ways. The parameter to categorize these types of cells in the location of the embryo development. So, how do we categorize the two types? It's simple. The first type is as we have human, seen in the case. Fetus grows inside the mother's body. It results in the mother giving rise to the young one. Such type is called viviparity, and these organisms will be called as viviparous. On the other hand, the case of the hen is an example of oviparity, and the organisms exhibiting it are called as oviparous. Well, this was about the process of embryogenesis, the development of embryos.